We are finally to the point of getting to mix the actual record. So you can see we've already done, 18, 19 modules, just editing and cleaning up. And that's just the vocal tracks. So we're expecting that the actual stems from the producer are great and obviously just perfect, but that's not really the case. And as we mix, we're going to find that out. We'll find problems, we'll find clicks, maybe bad fades, etc., that we'll fix along the way. But this module is dedicated to get this thing going. So this is about using this template. It's about turning on plugins. It's about getting a vibe started, building the drums up. And I will say right away that most of the time with a track like this, anything that is drum heavy based on a groove, etc., I'm going to start with drums. I'm going to start with kick, snare, and I'm going to get the vocals in as soon as possible. Let's get right into building this thing. And I'll kind of show you some tricks, tips along the way to make sure that you are gain staging correctly as well. So as we know from the last module, we kind of played this, saw kind of where we're at with levels. Let's go to our mixer here, and I'm just going to pop a couple things on to our template that is going to help us see things and hear things the way that we want to hear and see things, because the final destination for this record is going to be streaming platforms. It's going to be Spotify, Apple Music. It's going to be the club, so we want to make sure that everything's going to be hitting right for those things. So I have all my vocals here all the way through. And then if you look all the way to the left here, I have my master and my master aux bus, okay? The master aux bus is where everything is ending up. So if I mute this bus, I'm not going to have any music, right? I'm going to hit play. Okay. So if you're hearing something right now, when you mute that master aux bus, that means that your routing is not right. Okay, so let's find out what that is. So we're going to mute this bus and we're going to go through and figure out where the routing is weird. Okay, so right away, you're going to be able to tell and troubleshoot something, and that is we are hearing that intro drum beat. Okay, so that drum beat needs to be routed correctly. So just go to the beginning where we have the drum loop, and it seems like that one's just not routed to the right spot. So I'm just looking at the beginning of the track. I'm trying to pay attention to where that drum loop is, okay? So let's go to the beginning, and here's the filtered drums, and that's going to monitor left, right. So that's our culprit. I'm going to take it to the drum mix bus, okay? Now, if we go back up to our master aux, it is muted, and we press play. We shouldn't be hearing anything, okay? So that's going to tell you that your routing is right. And we're going to move through the session a little bit just to make sure the routing is correct, and we're going through the master aux on everything. There you go. So everything's good. It's all going through the right spots. That is a great sign that our routing is correct and our buses. And if you want to know more about the busing scheme, go back to the earlier modules where I explain routing through the whole template, okay? Which is basically everything goes to their specific mix buses. Instruments go to instrument mix, drums go to drum mix, vocals go to vocal mix. And then those buses go to the all buses of the all Vox, all instruments, all drums. And then those go to the master aux. And the master aux will end up hitting this master or monitor left, right. And then you also have a master, right? So that way I can take my guy here, which is the reference demo bounce, and I can unmute it. And with the master aux muted, I can play the reference and I can just listen to it.
Yep, you know that's me. Rolls Royce afuera.
So I can easily check that out without it going through the master aux and all the processing that maybe my mix is going through. Okay, so now I'm going to unmute the master aux. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to shape this a little bit. Last on this insert chain, I'm going to pop in. If you hit tab, you can search your plugins. I'm going to pop in a meter. Okay, so SPL Hawkeye is something that I prefer to meter with. And we're just going to check out the LUFs. We're going to look at the dB full scale, all that good stuff. The dB TP, this is full scale FS. You can go into different ratings. I won't get into any of that. I've done a mastering masterclass. If you want to get into that, check it out. But let's listen and let's give ourselves some headroom here.
Yep, you know that's me. Rolls Royce afuera, estoy aquí. Esa shorty tuya dice que está pa' mí. Con la chimba a mi lado, you know that's me. You know that's me. You know that's me. I told her, mama, fuck up your whole dreams. I told her, little mama, I fuck up your whole dreams.
Okay, so we're looking good. We're looking like we're giving ourselves some good headroom. So what I want to do usually is I want to be around like -5 or so, right? When I play everything together. No limiting, nothing going on, no processing. So I'm going to bypass the SPL Hawkeye. Going to make it inactive by holding down Control Command, and I'm going to click on it. And that goes for any plugin in Pro Tools. And if I just want to bypass, I hold down Command, click, and that's going to bypass, unbypass. Okay, so Control Command is going to disable. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get these drums going. So I'm going to always start with the kick and snare, especially with reggaeton. I'm going to find a part of the track where I really have a lot of kick and snare. So where the drums are going, the 808's going, all that good stuff. So let's get into that. Let's find a good area. So I can see my hi-hats, my fills, I can see my lead, bells, all that stuff. But remember, our drums are all brown, and that's how we have it. If you want to zoom in waveform view, you can click up here, audio zoom in. Okay, and we're just going to find our kick snare pattern, right? The kick and the 808, I like those to be kind of like top of mind, and then snare and all that stuff. So you can range your mix however you want, but we're going to take the kick up here. And we're just going to solo the kick for now, and we're going to get this kick going. Okay, first thing I notice is it's like really like click, click, like really pinny, and I really don't like that. So let's see what our plugins can do, what we have in our template. I'm going to unbypass the compressor, the EQ. We're going to send it to the kick parallel, okay? And we're going to go to the kick parallel bus, and we're going to turn that on as well. Okay, so let's go find the kick parallel bus. There it is. And let's pop on API. Here's what we got on the kick parallel. API, EQ P1A, and a Pro Q3. Okay, now these can change completely depending on the drums and what we're doing. And we probably will change those, but I just want to check everything with this kick right now. Another thing I want to do on the master bus, or on the drum mix, drum mix bus, drum master bus, I want to turn these on as well. So this is my processing that I'm going to be going through for my drums, and I want to make sure that these are all on. And yes, I do use this many NLS buses, and the reason is because I'll show you when I bypass them in and out how different stuff is. Drum mix, drum master. Remember, we're building our kick drum, snare drum that we're going to pop our vocals in. And then on the master augs, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to turn on my limiting for now, okay? And maybe a little bit of compression. So the BX Townhouse, which is just like an SSL style compressor. And I know I'm moving fast, but you guys have the access to the template as well. This is just to get everything going through the drum mix, drum master bus into the master bus, and make sure that we have just a little bit of processing on the master bus to sort of start to gel the vibe together, okay? We're not going to be doing too much compressing here. We're just going to be gelling and gluing. And the Ozone 9 is going to be, we're going to take this threshold way up. We're not going to be doing much limiting either. There's just some glue here, okay? Dynamic EQ, we can kind of reset this stuff. We don't actually need this on. X out, or we can turn it off. And I'd rather just turn off stuff. And then the EQ as well, because we don't know. It's not going to work for every track to just use the same EQ curve, right? I wouldn't do that with any template. I don't believe in that. I think every mix is different, right? So I just have these things here so that I can work fast. I don't need to go reopening them. And these dynamic EQ spots are typical spots that I don't like. For example, 2.4 K is like super harsh on my ears, and I guarantee you we'll reach into that range from 2K to 3K, and we'll start to tone some of that stuff down because it's just not pleasing to the ear. Same thing with 400, 300, 280. This area down here, I might have to clean up some stuff so I can get some more voltage and I can make the record louder. And then down here, 139, I don't know if that's going to be something we keep or not, and 38 to contain low bass stuff, sub stuff. And of course, like, you know, just shelving down a little bit of the high stuff as we limit. I'm not going to do much here. I'm just going to turn these bands off that I'm not using. I'm going to get rid of that one because these aren't doing anything. And we're going to stay right there. And then let's play this kick drum now. Okay, so we're going to slowly tame out some of that beater stuff, but it might be nice in the mix, so I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to make sure that I just kind of tame it down a little bit on everything. Let's make sure our compressor's set right. I think this attack is pretty fast. We can go a little bit slower on the attack. So far for me, because like I kind of have the idea of the record in my head, this sounds pretty darn good for like for a kick, right? I'm going to bring this 400 back up. I'm going to let this kind of breathe a little bit more, right? And we're just shaping stuff, right, for now. And this is good. This all looks good to me. This might be a little much, and that might be pushing a little bit further. We might like that going a little further, okay? And then the drum master, let's just check everything and make sure we have nice just gain staging all the way through. Nothing's getting smashed to hell. Nothing's doing too much lifting, etc. in these drum mix, drum master buses. So that's a lot for my Shadow Hills. If I'm doing, you know, around 2 dB of compression, I probably want to back off a little bit, okay? So let's back off this a little. Hey, that thing's knocking, right? Like, come on. It's pretty dope. Okay, so this gate is to keep all the noise out because we were going through all this processing. And then I want to show you as I'm going to bypass all these NLS buses and I'm going to pop them back in. And I'm going to show you just what that's doing because I think it really adds a nice edge to the drums. And I'll get rid of the Pro Q3 as well because these are kind of cleaning up what the NLS bus is doing. So let's hear it without the NLS bus and then with all these plugins. Right? Just kind of gives it like that. For me, it kind of sounds like when you go through like an MPC output or FL Studio, kind of like that soft clipping, little bit of that like, it's just that kind of noise and that weight that it gives to the kick drum. And it does the same thing for the snare drum as well, which I love. The black box design, you can easily overdo this. So what I'm doing right now, just so you know, like the kick drum, snare drum, we're going to get the gain staging going. So we're going to try to give ourselves some upper limits of those drums so they're hitting. And they're at that point where we still have like maybe 3 dB of room to sort of put our vocals and everything else in. But the kick and the snare really are kind of the loudest part of any reggaeton trap record, you know. 808 could be in the trap record. You know, you really want those things to be front and center. I mean, this track is really like kick, snare, vocals, you know? So that's just kind of the vibe. So that's what we're going to make as a precedence. So now I'm just going through and I'm gain staging every single way through. Like the kick drum goes to the mix bus, to the master bus, to the, you know, to the drum master, to the master bus. It has a send to the parallel kick, right? So we want to make sure that all those things are just kind of like hitting just right. And we're hitting that kick drum just enough to saturate it and make it feel good and knock and yeah, all that good stuff. And then we're going to put in that 808 as well, you know? So let's tweak this guy because this might be doing too much. Let's check it out. I love the mono maker on this plugin. What it's doing is it's taking 44 hertz and below, putting it right in the center and making it mono, okay? So, and then I'm just widening the drums a little bit, but we're going to find out more as we bring in more of the drums. So I think that kick is in a good spot. Let's start to bring in the 808 here. We'll just hear it without any processing, any of this stuff here, and then we'll start to bring in some of this stuff if we need it. I like to shape shift and tone shift with this guy, so you know, I can kind of control these 1, 2, 3, 4 bands of the 808. It just depends on what you're trying to do, but you could use a C4 or C6 from Waves. You could use the Fab Filter MB. You could use all sorts of stuff, but I really like this Mic DSP one. It's really great. Just kind of help tone down that one note kind of thing where it's going boo, you know. We don't want that really to poke out. We want that to be pretty even across the board. So that sounded good to me so far. And then let's start. I mean, the kick drum is just like a little too punchy. It's pretty obvious to my ears. Like I would definitely want it to be more like fat and thickened out. But I feel like for reggaeton, you're going to want that kind of like knock and that click, you know. But we'll find out as we go through the mix. We'll kind of like mess around with that. This is kind of the first step I always take with a track like this. I'm gonna get the kick. Now I'm gonna get the snare going as well. So this rim right here, this body, does not feel like the body of a rim, right? It feels very thin. It feels like, you know, it's like hollow almost. So I'm not going to use the Pro Q3 on this. I'm actually going to use an API. I think these are just kind of a little fatter. And let's bring in some body on this. Let's punch it a little bit harder on the 240, 180. I really feel like it needs that fattening, right? So another thing I'm going to try, I'm going to throw an 1176 on it just to give it a little more fatness, you know? 1176 is really good at just fattening things up. Always kind of makes that low end kind of go, woof, woof. It just kind of thickens it, you know? So let's find just, it doesn't, let's go like perk push, that's fine. And then the attack, let's go a little faster on it and release faster. That sounded a lot better to me. So let's bypass these and show you what we did so far on that snare. Just feels like a little bit more reggaeton, right? Like another thing you can do with like an EQ filter, like use a Moog filter or anything that you can resonate a little bit. That's going to be kind of give you more of that whoom, whoom, like it'll give it more pin, you know, kind of resonance. And I think the resonance is really nice. I'm also going to turn on my snare snap here. I'm going to push it into the snare snap bus, and let's turn on this compressor, which is going to be kind of like snappy, right? We might even attack faster, like really fast on this. And we'll bring this snare snap into this snare bus, and then the snare bus to the drum mix, okay? You don't have to do it this way. Like, for example, you could just go directly to the drum mix, which I don't think that's a bad idea. Just go snare snap right to drum mix. So sometimes, of course, you can mess around with the template. This isn't like, you know, this isn't written in stone. You don't need to like keep the template, etc. So now let's get some of that snap going, and you can see it's at 0. It's like totally down. We'll blend it in as we go. So the snare snap, I'm going to send 100%, and we're good. And then I'm going to blend it in. This is also going to the snare bus, the rim body. So I'm actually going to just take this right out to the drum mix as well. And let's hear this. I mean, that sounded really cool to me. I really like it. It's for me, it's like transients are life, right? In any sort of reggaeton, trap, hip hop, pop music, like you get those transients punching, and man, it just like brings everything to life. Things jump out of the speakers, and that's really what we're going for here. In the next module, we'll start to bring in the rim high, the top of the rim, and we'll also start to put these vocals in so we can see how those are playing against the drums. And typically in reggaeton, hip hop, trap, pop music, I want the vocals to be just barely louder than the drums themselves. Okay, so let's get into it. Keep on going.